Hello everyone, this is Jason with Shy Snake Games, and I wanted to give you an update on the status of Spy DNA and our new equipment screen, which I'm going to demonstrate. So what I'm going to talk about is we've added a number of new systems to the game. With our desire to be realistic, there's a number of things we wanted to simulate for the player that I'll describe today. Just a quick overview, there is encumbrance. We talked a little bit about that in the past, but we've since expanded it slightly. We have now support for weapon attachments, so you can customize your weapons. You can fit suppressors in different sights if you want. I want to talk about our noise system. So the louder a weapon is, obviously, the easier you will be to detect if you're using it. We have different types of ammo in the game. That was not something I think we ever advertised in the past. And also we have storage items for your inventory. So I'll get started with bulk encumbrance and our new storage items. So if you look here, I'm carrying 4 weapons right now in this character. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see the character can't really move. And the reason for that is we're simulating bulk encumbrance. So basically, if you're carrying more stuff than you can carry in your hand, you need to put it somewhere so that you can move comfortably. And for that purpose, we have these nice nifty backpacks and belts. Now, if you look here on the character portrait, you'll see you're actually wearing a backpack when you have a backpack on. So if you need to sneak into a dinner party, carrying a large military backpack in, it may blow your cover, so you may not want to do that. So what I can do now is I have the backpack selected, so I'll drag over a couple of the weapons, and you'll see the movement actually increases fairly quickly. Now that I'm down to 2, I have 2 hands, so can move normally. You could also equip them as a weapon if you want them ready to go. So what we're doing is basically treating this area underneath the description of the item is what is being carried on your person right now. It's not being either equipped, which is the equipment is on the top left. I'll talk about that in a bit. But it's also not being stored effectively in a backpack or in a pocket or something of that nature. So we actually implement this by classifying each item as either huge, large, small, or medium, and actually tiny also. So tiny does not count against your inventory because the assumption is something like a USB key or just an actual key can fit easily in a pocket somewhere and you don't have to worry about it. They're too small to be of concern. But for the larger things, it's assumed that you actually have to hold them. You can't just drop them in a pocket or something of that nature. And so they start counting against what you can carry. So another thing we've implemented is the storage items like your backpack or your belt have size limits attached to the size of the item that can be stored in them. So for instance, the backpack can hold things like pistols, scopes, other medium-sized items with no problem, but your belt can only hold small items, so things like magazines or grenades. And one other thing we're going to do is when you get something out of one of these storage items, there will be a access time cost. So the larger the storage item, so something like a backpack, it'll take considerable time for your character to get something out of it. So it'll be desirable for things that you want ready to use that you'll equip them in a holster or put them directly on the belt, something that's faster to access. And we're doing this to provide the most realistic experience we can, where you actually think about how you set up your inventory rather than just carrying the entire kitchen sink with you. And now I'm going to move on to our weapons attachments. So this is something that we've talked about in the past that we've wanted to do. I finally had a little bit of time to go and do it. So here we are. So this is our standard 4.5mm assault rifle. You'll see it very commonly used in the game. It's pretty close to the ubiquitous assault rifle for the game. Some bad guys will have it. A lot of good guys use it. It's just kind of the default. So I'm going to scroll down the window here. We have our nice rotating image, but for this purpose, that's the less interesting bit, and show you all the technical detail that we present about the weapon. So you can see the ammunition it carries, velocity, but the interesting stuff for this demonstration is down here at the bottom. So there's this thing called circular air probable. Basically, how accurate is the weapon? And the lower the number, basically the smaller the group that the weapon's going to be able to shoot at that distance. And we show it for a variety of distances for any given weapon. And on the right, you'll see our damage chart and the armor penetration values. This isn't really designed as an anti-armor weapon, so this penetration range is fairly low. And finally, you'll see a noise value. 170 decibels, for those who don't know, is extremely loud even for, a normal rifle. But there are things we can do about that. So depending on what you want, if you want to use this, say, at close range or indoors where you want to preserve your hearing, one of the things you could do is fit a suppressor. You'll see that some of these values, like the accuracy, changes. What's happening there is the suppressor actually doesn't affect the accuracy of the weapon itself. It does make the thing slightly heavier, which makes it a slightly more stable thing for the user to use, so you see a small adjustment for that. But the important note here is the noise has dropped significantly. The problem is, of course, this is still not quiet. This isn't the kind of thing you could use without alerting everyone in the vicinity. So what else could you, for instance, do to make this thing quieter? One of the things you could do is, and they actually do this in the real world, they make subsonic ammunition. Basically, ammunition designed not to generate a supersonic crack and also to generate less of a muzzle blast. So let's switch to that. And you'll see a number of effects happen. Our armor penetration kind of falls apart because we're using low energy ammunition, not surprising. The damage also falls off greatly. And our accuracy goes down, but the noise drops considerably. So this is still not quiet, unlike what you see in Hollywood, but it's something that is, not necessarily going to alert everyone in the area. But a couple other things, I'm going to take the suppressor back off for now, that I wanted to show, and I'll put some normal ammo back in it, trying to find the one I want. So this is the default full metal jacket ammo. And what I want to demonstrate now is we also have armor piercing and hollow point ammunition available. So if I swap out the regular for the AP, you'll see there's a reduction in damage, but the armor penetration does increase. The rest of the values over here don't really change. It's just designed to adjust your armor penetration versus damage trade-off. And by extension, there's the HP ammo, which really does run up the damage class, but is considerably less effective against armor. So you'll have to decide what you want to be using for a given scenario, and obviously you can change it when you want to. And the next thing I'll demonstrate is the sights. So you'll see up here in the model there's currently just the default iron sight, but if I swap in a holographic sight, you'll see it actually also changes the accuracy of the weapon. I'll take it back off for comparison. And basically the area that you're expected to hit at 50 meters is reduced by roughly half. So it's a considerable improvement in accuracy. And if you wanted to go to the extreme, I wouldn't recommend that on this one. You'll see this does drop a little bit more, but what you're being limited by at this point is this particular rifle just simply isn't all that accurate at long range. If you were planning to use and engage targets beyond, say, 500 meters, there are better options. But I just wanted to demonstrate the effect of different sights. And with that, I'll move on to talking about equipped items. So on the top left of our equipment screen, you'll see that there's a number of slots, and you can just drag and drop things into these from your hands or from other items. And what they represent is this is your equipped clothing. Basically, what are you wearing right now? So theoretically, if you're carrying a change of clothes, you can change on mission. That's probably not a common case, but it's something that you do have open as an option. And this is also to show you effectively, if you need to view the parameters of anything you're wearing, it gives you the option to do that. So what are some of the other things here? So these are the storage slots we talked about earlier. There's this block here in the middle, which are holsters for weapons. So these will be places where you can store weapons for quick access without having to hold them in your hand. The idea here is that some of these will be concealable. So for instance, the middle two are hip holsters. If you place a weapon in them and you're wearing something like a jacket that will partially or completely cover them, then you have a chance to conceal that. And anyone trying to discover that you have that with you will have to make the appropriate observation check, or they will not notice it. The two on the left and two on the right are for things we're working on for the future, but those will be ankle and shoulder holsters. We're just not quite finished with them yet. And here in the armor, this is things for like helmets that you can wear, body armor, and then we also have slots for the future for legs and arms. And I think that covers most everything that we have here. I'm going to demonstrate one more thing because someone asked for this. You can directly drop a weapon. The scope shouldn't be taken off when I do that, but I'll fix that. And that way you can, instead of putting it away, if you need to get to a different weapon very quickly, you can just drop something and switch. And with that, I thank you for listening. This has been Jason with an update on SpyDNA.